Okay. So when implementing user authentication, you will most likely want to use the gem device for doing it with Ruby on Rails. And I'm quite sure most of you have seen this gem, implemented the gem before, but now we'll try to do it once again and go a bit deeper with understanding how device works and what additional features, except of just user login, device provides. So here, for example, I've got an empty Ruby on Rails application. I've just created it. Yay, you're on Rails, and we'll try to install the gem device. So, I'm going to the getting started, and just in the gem file, we're adding gem device. Let's just check. Do you hear me well? Does anybody hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, it can.
Okay, yeah. Yeah, so we're adding the gem device, running bundle, and we're gonna type Rails generate device install. Let's see what this does. So it actually creates an initializer device.rb, and it creates a locales file and gives us some additional prompts that we need to set up to make device working. Now, first of all, it tells us to add this action mailer default URL options in our development RB so that we can actually receive mail. Like when you log in, when you want to reset your password or when you forgot your password, you will want to receive emails. And for this, it is the basic setting to be able to receive emails on your local host. So in development.rb, we are adding this line. Okay, the environment is restarting, it's okay. And we need to have a root path in our application. Well, at the moment, we don't have any paths inside our application, so we will create a new controller. We will create something like a home index controller. We'll say Rails generate controller, home index. So the controller will be named home, and there will be an index page. And going back, we'll need to add this root path. Now we are going to our config, and in roots, we will add this root to home index. Now I think we don't even have to set to now. So just like this. And we need to add these notice and alerts, basically to be able to know whether we have authenticated or we have not authenticated. So like just basic flash messages to our application. So I will add this in our views, going to app. And now to views. And we'll do it, for example, in our layouts inside our application HTML ERB above the yield tag. So above the content of our application. Okay, and is there anything else? You can also generate device views, but most likely on the first stages of your application, you will not need this. So it is only if you want to customize the way the device views look. Let's see what is next. So we need to generate a device model. Now, at the moment in the database, we don't have any models. Our database is absolutely empty. And we'll need to have a users table to keep all our user records, obviously. So they type in Rails generate device user, and it's creating the migration to create a user, and it's creating also user.rb file, and in our roots, it adds device for users. Now, if we add device to users in our roots, it's giving us a lot of roots like new registration path, delete user path, delete user session path, and so on. We'll come back to this later. Then inside our user RB model, let's have a look at it, going to models, user.rb, we have installed the device. And you see there are all these other options for device. We are also going to go through them now. So it also created the migration. Let's have a look at the migration, db, migrate. And what do we have by default? We have an email, and password, and reset password settings. And everything else can be uncommented, but we will do it a bit later. So let's run the migration. Rails db migrate. And in the meantime, let's have a look at the other settings of device. Okay, so we have this before action authenticate user. Basically, we can require user login for either the whole application if we add this inside our application controller. Here we have our controllers. Now we have two controllers. So if we add this line inside our application controller, we will require authentication for any action, any controller inside our application, or we can do it on a controller level, like just here, we can require this before action authenticate user. Also, optionally, you can say something like skip before action authenticate user or before action authenticate user only for some particular actions, like only index. But for now, we will set this before action authenticate user on our application level. And let's start the application and see how it looks. So previously we had this yayo on Rails, but we have added a new root path. Here in our roots, we have root for home index. And we have been redirected. Now the application is compiled, and you see we got this screen. You need to sign in or sign out before continuing. So we already have our device view, and we get this message. We get this message from there. We get this message from our application HTML from these Flash messages. Okay, and we get this, you need to sign in once again, because we have this before action inside our application controller. So if I comment it out and try to go back just to the root path of our application, you see, we can see home index. So we don't have this registration kind of blocker. But let's return this registration blocker and sign into the application. So I'm going to create a new account. I'm going to sign up. I will add an email address. Add in my password confirmation, and sign up. And you see, we get this message, welcome, you have signed up successfully. And well, if I refresh the application, there is no way for me to know if I am a signed in user, what my email is. There is no button to log out. So let's add these buttons. If we go to our roots of the application, we can see all these device roots. So we can add them to our navigation. If we have a current user, we will want to have a route to destroy user session path. And according to device, we have these options to check whether the user is signed in and to get the current user. Let's try this. So I will go to our application HTML ERB, and here we'll try to add these two methods, equals user signed in, and it should render either true or false, and current user should render the object of the currently logged in user. Let's see if it works. Going back to the application, and here you see we get true for user signed in, and here we have the object of the user that is signed in from this browser, from this session at the moment. So we can actually also just add not the current user, but .email or current user.id, for example. So we can get any information about the current user. The user can get it about himself. You see, we have the ID and we have the email. And now let's add the links to sign out. Now, where do we get these links from? Again, we have this destroy user session path. So let's add this link. We'll say equals link to log out, destroy user session path, and there should be a method delete. So method delete. Let's see if it works. I will go back to our application and press log out. So I've logged out and we get this error, undefined method ID for nil class, because there is no current user. So we can actually get this current user ID and email only if we have a current user. We can make it conditional, or we can make it like this. If we add this AND statement, then we check if the current user is present, then we check for the next line. It's actually quite a new feature that was added in Rails in the last 2 years, I guess, this AND dot. So see, works. We have no current user and we are not logged in, but we still have this logout button. So if we are not logged in, it is strange for us to have this logout button. So we will add some conditions. We'll say if the user is signed in, then we'll have the user ID and email and the button to log out. Otherwise, we'll have something else. We'll have the button to log in or to register. So let's add a button to log in and to register. What are the paths going to be? Let's have a look at our routes. So it will be new user session path and new user registration path. So new user registration path, and it will be register. And for log in, we will have new user session path. Okay, let's see if this works. Do you hear me? Just testing.
Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay, yeah, and you see I'm not logged in and I have the button to register and to log in. So let's do this. I will actually register with another account, email, password. And you see, now I'm logged in. I see the ID of the current user, so my ID, I see my email address and log out. And actually, there is another default option for you to be able to delete your account or to change your email address. So if we go to our routes once again, we have something like edit user registration path. Here it is. And we will add a link to it. So we will say link to current user email, edit user registration path. And let's see what this does. So you see, I press my email address and I have this form that only I can access, where I can change my email address, I can change my password, but for this I need to confirm, I need to type in my current password, or I can cancel my account, so kind of delete the account from the database and leave the application. Okay, and this is basically how you set up device and have it going. So it is the like basic setup that can be done, but there is still quite a lot of options. Let's just save our changes and continue. So let's say git status. Yeah, quite a lot of changes. Git add all, git commit main, install device. Okay, and actually going back inside our user RB, we see a lot of different options like confirmable, lockable, timeoutable, trackable, and Omniauthable. And also, you see when we created our device initializer, we can see this file devise.rb. It should be somewhere here. Yeah, here's the file devise.rb that was created. And let's have a look at this file. So going to our config, initializers, and here we have device.rb. And there is this gigantic file with a lot of settings. And like, frankly speaking, like for the first 2 years, as I just started Ruby on Rails, I just didn't care about all these settings, but a lot of them are really useful. So for example, here you see this config mailer sender, please change me at config initializers device and so on. So let's think of something. For example, we have forgotten our password. Here's our email address. I will log out and I say, I forgot my password. I press forgot your password. I type in my email address and I press this button, send me reset password instructions. And what happens? Actual device tries to send an email. So in production, you would need to have your emails configured so that you can actually send them. But in development, you see, we get this email. I see it in my console that this email was sent by device mailer resend password instructions. And it was sent from please change me at config initializer. So here you would want to use a real email from your application. So I would change this to something like hello at tdcm.device io. And next time this email would be sent, it would be sent from that email address. Then it was sent to the email address that I'm trying to recover, so to this email address. And you see we get this text, hello, somebody has requested a link to change your password, and we get this URL. So we get this reset password token. Now, anybody who has this reset password token, in theory, can reset your account. So, well, that's why you receive it through email. So you just press a button and let's see what happens. Let's say I open this email address and I go to the URL. It brings me to this URL with reset password token. I press enter and you see we are redirected to this page, change your password. So I will just put in a new password and change the password. Okay, and your password has been successfully changed, and you see we are automatically logged into the application after we change our password. So it works fine. And one more thing, like we have a couple of users in our application now. So let's actually create a view where we can see all our users. We can either do it inside our home index, or we can create a separate users controller. I would prefer a separate users controller. So users controller.rb, and here we're going to have users controller index action, and we'll say at users equals user.all. Okay, and let's create some views for this. So we have a controller. Now we need also a root. So we're going to roots and we'll say get users. Oh, we can just say resources users. And this way it will create all the roots for all our users, like to show, to index, to edit, to create, and so on. So possibly we'll want to add them later. For now, we are just going to use index, and we'll go to our app views and create a new folder named users, and inside an action named index. So new file, users, new folder, users. And inside that will be a file index. .html.erb. And inside we are going to render all the users. Let's say equals user.count. So we see how many users that we have. And on a separate line, we're going to render all our users through a partial. Let's say render at users. And where are we going to get these users? Well, we are going to create a partial with users. At the moment, if we go to /users, what will we have? You see, there is missing a partial for user/user. So let's create this partial. I'm going to create a partial inside users. So underscore user.html.erb. And inside it will have some kind of user details like equals user.id, email, and so on. User ID, email, and for example, when the user was created. So user.created app. And let's see if it works. So see, here we have the details and we have two users, the first user and the second, and both are rendered via a partial. And let's actually add the line, not just a break between the users. So looks fine. Now we have this view where we see all our users. Let's also add it to our application html.erb. So if the user is signed in, there will also be a link to see all the users. So link to users and users path. Let's see if it works. Yeah, so we have the link to all our users. Okay, let's save the changes and now go back to working with device. So git status, git add all, git commit main, users, view. Okay, and now going back to device. So if we go to our user user.rb, we have all these options: confirmable, lockable, trackable, timeoutable, and omniauthable. So we'll start with trackable. I think this one is the easiest one. And what does trackable do? Now, if we go to the device documentation and see on the very beginning, we have all these modules, and trackable gives us the ability to track signed in count and timestamps and IP addresses. So the information about how many times a user logged into the application and the IP addresses from which the user logs in. And actually, you don't have to reinvent the wheel here and try to figure out how to install it. If you go to the device wiki, there are a crazy amount, 140 different pages for how to do different things with device, but a few of them are quite outdated. So these work well. So we'll go to how to add lockable to users. Oh, actually not lockable, but trackable first of all. So we are going to run this migration, Rails generate migration, add trackable to users. And you see, we get all these fields that we can add. So sign in count, then the current sign in at, last sign in at, and the IP addresses. So we will add this inside the migration. Let's go to the db migrate. And here we will add this up and down and run the migration. So sign in count, current sign in at, last sign in at. These are the date times. Basically, you see when the user signed in for the last time, and the IP addresses. So you can always say you will find somebody's home by the IP address. Okay, we've done the migration, and now we need to whitelist this trackable inside our device, inside our user.rb. So we will just say add the trackable, and it must already work. Let's start the server. I'll start the server, and in the meantime, close a few windows that we are not using right now. Okay, so started the server. I'm logging in back. It says my internet connection is unstable. Strange. Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can. Yeah, we can hear you.
Yeah. So, okay, trying to connect. And let's add these 5 fields to our users partial and see if these are saved. So we have our users partial right here, and let's add these 5 fields. So here are these 5 fields. We'll say something like this: user dot each of these fields, and let's add some kind of break. And let's add the, let's say, equals the name of the field dot humanize. So it will just display these fields in a more human way. And we have to do a bit less work on writing the names of each field. I'll refresh. And I get an error. Okay, I didn't close some kind of tag. Yeah, this one. Okay, and we don't have any data about the users at the moment. And somewhere I also have an extra tag. Yeah, here it is. But if I log out, let me log out. And I will log in once again and see if the data is saved. So logging back in, I go to users, and you see for the user that signed in after adding device trackable, we have the current sign in at, we have the last sign in at, you can see my IP address. So it works well. And this way you can keep track of all the IP addresses of all the users that log into your application. So this is everything about device trackable. Really easy, but in some cases it can be quite a useful function. So git add all, git commit main, device trackable. Okay, and what other options are there? Now this was the easiest option. Let's go back to user.rb and see. We have device timeoutable. Well, for example, when I log into my bank Zahodny, there is always this thing. It tries to log me out automatically in around 10 minutes after being logged in. So if you're building some kind of like super high security feature and you want to give users the impression of like security, you can add this device timeoutable. But usually I really don't like using this feature. If you go to the device initializer and find timeoutable, we have these settings, and just by reading them, you can understand what timeoutable is about. You would just add an additional field. Let's try to find whether this is here. Yeah, so we would be adding an additional field timeout. No, I think we don't even add an additional field here. We just add the timeoutable. Let's try. Okay, and now we would say config timeout in 30 seconds. Okay, and now I will start the server once again and try to log in and see if in 30 seconds I am logged out. So let's log in once again. Okay, and in user RB we said that it is timeoutable, and we know when the user last signed in. So I last signed in at 12:34. Well, here we see the time by the Greenwich time zone. So in around 30 seconds, I should be signed out of the application. And of course, you can add some kind of additional like fancy setting that you will be signed in and signed out in and add some kind of timer. So while we wait, we can try to add another device function. And my favorite ones are confirmable and Omniauthable. So Omniauthable basically adding social login with GitHub, login with Google, and so on. So let's add the login with Google now. And how do we do it? Let's go to our device, and well, there is this thing Omniauth. And there's the gem Omniauth Google Auth tool that we need to install, and it is going to work together with device. So it will add an Omniauth strategy for device for logging in with Google. Now, there are possibilities to add login like with any social provider. There are a lot of them, but we are going to start with Google. In the meantime, did we sign out? You see, your session has expired. Please sign in again to continue. So we have successfully added the device timeoutable. And you see it was really easy. We just said add timeoutable and timeout in 30 seconds. Let's make it 30 minutes now, just that it doesn't disturb us. Okay, git status, git add all, git commit main, device, timeoutable, and git push. Yeah, and now we will add the Omniauth. Omniauth Google. So we're adding this gem to our gem file. And running bundle. And let's go to our README for the gem. And actually, like from between all the Omniauth gems, there is the best README on this Omniauth Google. So like everything you need to do is really well explained. So we need to add a Google Auth to client ID and secret. So we need to get API keys from Google. Yeah, I'm already logged into the Google console. And if I go to my credentials, I've already created credentials. Usually it takes quite a few minutes. So let's say I will create new credentials for an Omniauth client ID. Yeah, let's say for Google. In the meantime, we are going to keep our credentials inside our devise.rb. So if we go to the settings for Omniauthable here inside devise.rb, here we have the default as GitHub. So for GitHub, we can have an app ID and app secret, but we're going to set up Google Auth first. So we will say config Omniauth Google OAuth 2, I guess like this. Now where was it? So config Omniauth Google Auth 2, and here we'll have the app ID and secret, and the scope isn't really important. Now let's go here. The application type is web application. In Ruby on Rails, we are building web applications. So authorized JavaScript origins and authorized to redirect URIs. Here we're going to have the URL of your application. What is the URL of the application? Let's see. So here I will have this URL. You will have localhost or the production URL. And here they're going to have the same /users/ I think callbacks or auth. I'll actually have a look at a hint. I have it saved here. So it will be users auth Google Auth 2 callback. So /users/auth /Google or auth 2 /callback, like this. So we will create it. And it should give us a client ID. We will add the client ID here. It's going to be the app ID. Now you see I'm keeping it in devise.rb, but I would suggest that you use credentials for this, and the client secret. Okay. And next, we're going to go and add Omniauth inside our application. So at the moment, we have just device for users inside our roots. Let's have a look at the roots. Here we have device for users, and we're going to use a custom controller. So we're going to add a new controller inside our controllers folder, inside the users folder. So inside controllers, we're going to create a new folder named users. And inside we'll have a new controller named Omniauth callbacks controller.rb. And inside we're going to have this code. Now we'll go through this code. So basically, when we receive a request, so first of all, we're going to log in with press the button to log in with Google. They're redirected to Google. We select the account, and Google redirects us back in through our routes into this controller. And we're going to already have the JSON data from Google. So the JSON data is going to look something like this. So we're going to have this authorization hash. And based on this authorization hash, we'll have the email address from which the user wants to sign in. And we're going to try to send the user in. So this is what this code does. And you see we have this method user from Omniauth. So we will need to add this method from Omniauth inside our user.rb. And it's also set up here by default. We have this method self from Omniauth. So going back, it gives us this method self from Omniauth. And basically, we find the user with an email that tries to log in through a social account. So like a user in a social account, like Google has an email address, and we find the user in our database and log him in. Or we will create a user from the social account. So we'll just uncomment this code. And you see we have this name data. We'll remove it. I'm not using this name. We don't have a name of the user in the database at the moment. And you see we're going to generate a random password for the user. So you see we have this device friendly token 020. So it generates a random password, and usually a user that logs in with a social account doesn't even have to know his password. Like for all applications where you log in with a social account, they actually generate a random password for you, but neither they nor you know the password. You just press the login with the social account button. Okay, let's see if there's anything else that needs to be done. Yeah, we can just add a few links to sign in with the social account. And importantly, we shouldn't forget to add the Omniauthable inside our users. So we're going to say Omniauthable, and maybe we'll have to say Omniauth provider Google Auth 2, like this. So it is also Omniauthable, and Omniauth provider is Google Auth 2. Let's see if it works. I'm starting the server. And you see, by default, we have this button sign in with Google Auth 2. So if like they are working from the default device views, and they're getting this all these views not from our views folder inside our application, but from device. We can always type generate device views to have them locally, but you don't have to unless you want to customize the views. So let's try to press sign in with Google and see what happens. Let's see. Okay, it says could not authenticate you from Google because of authenticity error. So on the beginning of 2021, there was a new version of Omniauth released that has a lot of security updates. And there is an additional gem that you have to install to not have this error. So I have this gem noted somewhere. Here it is. So gem Omniauth Rails CSFR protection. It's just a gem that you add to the gem file, and it will help you work with all Omniauth. So we're adding the gem and running bundle, and let's try once again. So starting the server, pressing sign in with Google, and bingo, we get redirected to this page. So I will select the TDCM account. Okay, confirm passcode. And it's trying to sign us in. Let's see. Yeah, you see, successfully authenticated from Google account. I have my email address. I'm the third user, and we have the data saved about the user. So we easily added the sign in with Google. And well, adding additional social accounts would be easy because we've already done the heavyweight work. We have added the Omniauth callbacks inside our routes. We have added this Omniauth controller, and inside user RB, we have added this method self from Omniauth. Let's also add the social login with GitHub. So I'll say our changes first of all: git status, git add all, git commit main, Omniauth, Google. Now we'll do the same for GitHub. So let's find the Omniauth GitHub. Here it is. Okay, and we are going to do a very similar thing, but there are going to be a couple of gotchas. So we're adding gem Omniauth GitHub and running bundle. Next, we are going to get a GitHub key and GitHub secret. So going to our device.rb. Here you see, I will just uncomment GitHub, and we need to get this app ID and app secret, and we're not going to use the scope. So going to the GitHub account, let's see. Yay, feel free to follow me on GitHub. Okay, going to settings, and we have these developer settings. And in developer settings, we have OAuth apps. We're going to create a new OAuth app. And we'll need the homepage URL and authorization callback URL. So we already did the same here with our Google. We added these URLs. Let's just copy the URLs that we added to Google. So we have the URL of our application. It can be localhost, and the second URL. But here we had Google Auth 2, and instead we'll have GitHub. So users out GitHub callback. Okay, register application. And we have the client ID. So the client ID is going to be here. It's going to be the app ID. And they're going to generate a new client secret. Do you hear me? Is the connection okay?
Yes, it is.
Okay. So we've got the ID and secret. And what else do we need to do? I guess that's nearly it. So here we'll just add GitHub. OK, and start the server. Oh, actually, it won't work yet because we also need to add the controller action for GitHub. Now, the bad thing that we can do is just copy this and say GitHub here, and say GitHub here, and see if it works. This should work, but it is not good code, so we are going to optimize it in a moment. So logging out, you see we have this sign in with GitHub. I'm going to do this. So we are redirected to GitHub. You see, I press authorize me, and you see the fourth user was created. I have the user ID 4, and I managed to sign in with GitHub. So it works, but this code is bad. We're just duplicating stuff. So we would make it like this. Let's say we would have def Google Auth 2 and def GitHub. And we will remove one of these two methods. And we would say handle auth. And in both cases, we're going to redirect to handle auth. Something like this, and handle auth GitHub. Or maybe we will say kind. Something like this. So Google GitHub, and here would say kind is kind. So this way we are basically going from the GitHub and Google URLs to Google Auth and to GitHub Auth, and in both cases we are redirected to this handle auth, and kind is just going to say the word GitHub or Google. Let's see if this works. I might have made some kind of typo, but let's see. Logging out, signing in once again. Yeah, so I made some kind of typo. Actually, I'm going to look it up. I had it done somewhere here. Yeah, I shouldn't have said the word kind here. Yeah, so couldn't authenticate from GitHub invalid credentials. I will try once again. And you see it worked. So I managed to log in. And this way our code looks better and is a bit more reusable. And I noticed that sometimes it is really good to add an additional option as failure. So def failure. And in some cases, then for some reasons Omniauth will not work, it will be good to have it. So you would say redirect to root path alert. Something went wrong, please try again. Okay, and with this, we've already added the social login with GitHub, and we can save our changes and go further. So git status, git add all, git commit main, Omniauth, GitHub. Okay, and now going back to users, we have this Omniauthable, so we have added it. We have only confirmable and lockable left. And actually, confirmable is super important. So I really hate when users with fake emails like one@gmail or test@test try to use my application. So I don't allow users with fake emails to log into the application. So for this, we would want to add device confirmable. Let's have a look at how we add the device confirmable. Here we have, let's go back to the device documentation. And in the wiki, we have how we can add confirmable. So how to add confirmable? This is really, really important, in my opinion, for all web applications. If a user logs in not with a social account, he has to confirm his email address. Okay, so we will add a migration, and let's see what the migration does. So you see it adds a few fields. It adds a confirmation token, then the user was confirmed, that confirms. And you see we have this thing by default, update all the users that were created before we added confirmable with confirmed at data now. So basically, if you've already got a running application and you have existing users, and then you add confirmable, if you add this line, you don't have to make the users reconfirm their email addresses. So I will add this to our migration that we have just run. Okay, and yeah, so we will also add unconfirmed email. If you're using reconfirmable, we can use it. So if what does this do? This unconfirmed email. Imagine you're in an application and you want to change your email address that you use for using this application. So you have an account, but you want to change an email address, and you change the email address, and you get a new unconfirmed email, and you have to confirm the new email. And when you confirm the new email, then the new email is going to be usable. So, okay, let's run this migration, Rails db migrate, and let's see what's next. So we obviously need to add confirmable inside our user.rb. So somewhere here, add confirmable. Yeah, so just one option is left afterwards. And let's see what is next. So we added the migration. We don't need to generate the device views. And let's have a look at device RB, what we have for confirmable. Okay, configuration for confirmable. So by default, if we add confirmable, the user cannot use the application if he did not confirm his email. Let's actually check if it works at the moment. I'm starting the server. And I'm going to create a new user account. So let's sign up. Kind of random email address. I press sign up. And you see, it says you need to sign in or sign up before continuing. So it basically didn't let us through. But you see, in the background, there was an email sent. Welcome, you can confirm your account through this link. So the user cannot use the application unless he confirmed his account. Let's try to confirm the account. So I will just imitate as if I've gone through this link. And you see, your email address has successfully been confirmed, but we were not logged in by default. So we can also make it so that if we confirm our email address, we are automatically logged in. And this is also set up in this README. So we can just add something like after confirmation path and redirect to some kind of page. So we would be automatically confirmed. Let's see if this works. I'm going to add this to our application controller. Or are we going to add it to somewhere else? Yeah, let's actually do it the way it says. We'll create this confirmations controller. We'll do it inside our users folder, inside controllers. So confirmations controller.rb. And inside we will have this code. But it has to inherit from users, the way it does with Omniauth callbacks controller. It has to inherit from users. Okay, and after the resource, so after the user is confirmed, we will sign the user in, resource is user, and redirect to root path. Or, for example, to user's path. Let's see if this works. I will also need to add this inside our roots. So now we have controllers Omniauth callbacks, and we will also add the controllers confirmations, but it will be users/confirmations because it is nested inside the users, inside the controllers. You see controllers here, then users, and here we have these two device controllers. It's really good to nest device controllers inside a users folder. Okay, let's see if it works. So I start the server once again, Rails S. I'm going to take a new email address and sign up. So email, password confirmation, sign up. Okay, it says you need to confirm your account. I will confirm the account. And you see, I was automatically redirected into the application. So I'm logged in and I'm redirected to the user's path. And let's go back to our confirmable options in device.rb. So you see, by default, it is 0 days. So the user cannot access the application unless his account is confirmed. And you can change this option to be, for example, 2 days or any period you want. You can make it 1 year or 2 years, whatever. Then confirm within a period of time. So by default, the confirmation token, so the link in the email is valid forever, but you can make it valid for only a period of time. And reconfirmable true. I need a drink. Yeah. Okay. So again, whenever you change something inside an initializer, so inside config folder, you need to restart the server, and the changes will take effect. And actually something interesting. What if a user signs in with a social account? Let's drop our application, Rails DB reset, and try to sign in with a social account. How is it going to work? Rails server. Okay, so I'm taking a Google account. Now we shouldn't have any emails, any users at the moment inside the application. And you see, we were successfully authenticated. But we were successfully authenticated, but is our account actually confirmed or not? Let's go to our user's partial and see if the user is confirmed. So let's see. Let's see if the user is confirmed. We can maybe write something like confirmed. And there must be this device helper. Let's see. Yeah, so confirmed is false. Our user is not confirmed, though he logged in with the social account. And usually I want to make users that log in with the social account automatically confirmed. So how are we going to do this? We'll go back to our user.rb. And here we would say something like user.skip confirmation. How do I know this? Because if I go to device and go to press any of these options like confirmable, I will have the list of all the available helpers. So see, it goes to Ruby doc and for device. And we can check if the user is confirmed with a Boolean. And there is this thin skip confirmation. So user.skip confirmation. Okay, and let's see if it works. So I will log out and try to log in once again. And it should confirm my account. Okay, so I'm going back to users. And you see it says confirmed true. So the user is confirmed automatically if he logs in with a social account from Omniauth. So works well. Let's save our changes. Git status, git add all, git commit main, add device confirmable, and looks fine. And there is just one device option left. It is lockable. What does lockable do? Well, you might want to ban or to unban users in your applications. Just like this. Okay, it's annoying. It's taking so much time. Well, yeah, like this. You might want to ban or unban users in your applications. And actually, let's see how device lockable works. So going back to device documentation, we'll find lockable. And we have a few options for lockable. So a user account can be locked in different options. Either if he had too many failed attempts, like somebody is trying to brute force your password, so somebody is trying to like guess your password. And for example, after 3 attempts, you can lock the account. So you would say lock strategy is by failed attempts. And unlock strategy would be through either time or email or both. So basically, the account would be unlocked again after 1 hour, and the account would be locked for 20 minutes. And it can be unlocked by email or when the 20 minutes have, or when 1 hour has passed. And you can also add this config last attempt volume true. So let's actually make maximum attempts to be 3 and add device lockable. Let's see how we add device lockable. There might be another migration. Going back to the device wiki. So here we have device lockable, and we would add 1 or 2 additional columns. So we're running the migration, Rails generate migration, add the lockable to device. And in the meantime, we're adding lockable here. Yeah, I love using all of them and not having these comments anymore. Okay, so we're adding this migration, add lockable to device. And we have these columns. Let's have a look at these columns and see what they actually do. Okay, so we count the failed attempts, how many failed attempts to type in the password the user has, then logged at. So after a few options of failed attempts, or after we actually manually logged a user in the console or with an admin button, that would be this time when the user was logged, and a token that is sent to the email to unlock the account if we enable this. So let's say Rails db migrate. Okay, and I think we've added it here. We've added it in device. So let's see if it works. I'll try to start the server and have a few failed attempts to sign into an account. So I'll take this account, log out, and try to log in. So here's the email and the password. I press log in. Just a moment. Doesn't seem to be working correctly. Yeah, so some kind of email address, a password. Yeah, it's giving me some kind of message. Let's see. And then drop down. Oh yeah, I had an extra space. Yeah, got it. So invalid email or password. Now once again, log in. And you see, you have one more attempt left before your account is logged. It is because here we said last attempt volume should be true. And now I try to type in the password and see your account is logged. And if you have a look at our logs, there's an email sent. So your account has been logged due to many unsuccessful attempts. And here's the token to unlock the account. So let's actually unlock the account. I'm taking this and going to unlock. Okay, see, your account has been unlocked. Please sign in to continue. And now we can actually sign into the account. And we can add another option to be visible inside our user spatial to see if the user account is locked. So let's say locked and user.locked. And there must be this helper. Let's see. Let's go to our users. And there is no helper to see if the account is locked. Let's see what kind of helper we do have. Go into device and have a look at Lockable. And let's see how we can see if the account is locked. So access locked. Yeah, we check access locked. And it is not locked at the moment. So this is basically how you add the device lockable. Let's save our changes, git status, git add all, git commit main, device lockable. Okay, and one more thing, we are going to add device invitable. Now, what is the right way to create users in your account? It is incorrect. It is bad for you to have just a table where you can create a user and create a password for users. So it is not correct for you to create as an admin a password for a user and then tell the user, here's your email address and here's a password. The right way is to input the user's email in some kind of field and invite the user. Here, for example, I press invite user. I type in an email address and the user actually gets an email address that you have been invited. He presses a button, he types in his password and he can use the application. So for this, there is this separate gem device invitable. Let's add this gem. Do you hear me? Is the connection still there? Is anyone still there after an hour? Awful. Oh my. I'll try to switch the video off if there was a video. And Rails generate device invitable install. Let's see what it gives us. So it gives us some injected lines in device RB. So if we type git status, we will see the diff that it has injected the settings for device invitable into device.rb. So here are the settings for device invitable, and you can also have a look at them. So how long the invitation email is valid, then how many invitations one user can send, then the regex for the email address, and whether it is validated on invite on true, whether invitations can be resent. And let's basically add device invitable. So we have this Rails generate device invitable model. So it's going to be a migration for adding device invitable to users. The model is going to be user or users. Let's see. And here we have these lines for device invitable. So the token, when the invitation was created, when it was sent, when it was accepted, how many invitations a user can have, so how many he can send, and by whom the user was invited. Okay, Rails DB migrate. And let's see. We'll start the server, and we should actually to invite a user. I will go to our views into our application HTML. And here, if the user is signed in, we will have a new path to new user invitation path. And we would say invite a user. Let's see if this will work. So we have this path invite a user. I press it and you see we have this view send an invitation. So I will send an invitation to this email address, and let's see. I send the invitation, and invitation has been sent. We can see it here. And importantly, the user was created in the database. So you see, confirmed false, logged false, but the user was created in the database and he didn't sign in yet. So we can see that with device invitable, we can create users and send them emails to have them invited into the application. And it's a really powerful tool that I like using, and you can customize it a lot. So I think that's it for today. We've done a lot with the device, and just for future reading, I also really recommend installing this invisible reCAPTCHA so that the users with fake emails don't log into your application. And it's really common if you don't have a Google reCAPTCHA or this gem invisible reCAPTCHA installed. And for this, we conclude this many features of device and device usage in Ruby on Rails. So I guess that's it, and thanks for joining.
Thank you, Yaro.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thanks, Yaro. Have a nice day. Bye.